if you believe and internalize that your way of being, the way you feel, the way you act, the way you think, the way the plans you make for the future, if you start believing that they are fully dependent on another person, it becomes very, very difficult to disentangle anything that happens in your life.
Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Sophie Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero?
I think this ends up being an important topic for long-term relationships, and this is, whether family or intimate, but definitely in intimate settings with a chosen partner, I'll say. And that's just the level of control that we assert or we take on around our own emotional states. I think I mentioned this in the last couple of meetings, but a lot of times when I start working with couples, actually, to be honest, both sides predominantly, but have this sense that the other partner, so I think I talked about this last week, a lot of people want me to help them kind of argue their case in front of their partner, right? Show my partner that I'm right is kind of the notion. And it's always been really interesting because you get two partners both wanting to do that, and that's obviously a dead-end road, right? If you try to help everybody prove themselves right, you'll end up essentially just breaking up the marriage or the relationship because that disagreement is not going to be resolved in any way. So that's one really, really important piece, is for me always to kind of step away from the even right angle and say, well, what if can we put the other person's shoes on for a second, empathize and understand where they're coming from? And if we both play that game, there may be a better chance of bringing the two together. I wanted to spend time on this concept of, it's called behavioral control. So like my emotions and my behavior are up to me. And that's another thing that comes up a lot is people say, she makes me do this, or he makes me angry. He does this to me. She does this to me. And there's a lot of, it's not just the blaming. Obviously the blaming itself is something to be worked on, but there's less ownership of one's own state. And what can end up happening oftentimes there is, if you believe and internalize that your way of being, the way you feel, the way you act, the way you think, the way you, the plans you make for the future, if you start believing that they are fully dependent on another person, it becomes very, very difficult to disentangle anything that happens in your life from that person. We've talked before about this kind of idea of an H relationship. Right? Again, definitely also true in families. You don't want family members that are so dependent on one another that either they have a T relationship, right? The one where, let's say, a parent is fully supporting an adult child. That can be hard sometimes, because if somebody doesn't have their own, I'll just say their own thing going, their own sort of forward movement, they can start being resentment from both sides, right? People saying to one another, well, you're fully dependent on me, I'm fully dependent on you, et cetera. And decisions can get skewed. But even in intimate relationships, the same thing happens. My wife just went away for the weekend, and she was talking about one of the women there was a girls trip, and one of the women who was there talking about the terrible relationship that she and her husband have. And as she was going into the story, that woman knew that we do relationship work. So she was kind of asking Sophie all these questions. And as Sophie went into the story, she started talking about the woman's husband, who's a trust fund kid. Right? Who doesn't know the definition of what that means. It means he comes from a family full of money, and there's a trust fund set up somewhere that kind of gives him a certain amount of money every month, every week, every year, however it's set up. And he just lives off that. So he doesn't work. He sits at home and kind of, plays around, does whatever he wants to do.
Hey everybody, it's Adi again, and I want to share with you something that I believe is one of the most useful free tools I've ever created for my clients and for you. It's our free personalized My Drinking Score report. Look, you already know that at Ignited, we don't care much for labels and we don't believe in any of those once a blah, 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 always a blah, blah, blah slogan. But if you are questioning your specific relationship with alcohol, you may be trying to figure out how to understand what you need to do and whether you're moving in the right direction. Well, then this completely free tool is for you and will give you the answers you're looking for. All you're gonna do is you're gonna take a 5-minute quiz answering simple questions that you know the answers to. And then like magic, our system is gonna spit out a custom report so that you can find out more about your relationship with alcohol and actually get guidance and help to some of the changes that you can individually make. I created this tool to give you a customized, personalized virtual resource that you can take at any time, and that makes it easy to get the exact recommendations and steps that you need to help eliminate your struggles. Anybody can take it, and did I mention that it's completely 100% free? Well, it is. So stop running around in circles trying to figure out why you're having a hard time getting sober and get real solutions and guidance to help transform your life and get ignited forever. Just pause this audio right now and go to ignited.com/go. Again, that's ignited.com/go and take our 5-minute quiz right now. Find out what your drinking score is and then share it and tag us on Instagram or Facebook, because remember, fuck shame. Together, we get to move forward and get better every day.
I think for most of us, that sounds like a dream. Like if you hear that in your head, that sounds like a dream. Oh my God, I wish there was something that just gave me free money whenever I wanted it, right? Oh, I need to buy a new car, or I want a new computer. I want to go to the movies, whatever that is. There's a place that just funds you, but he's miserable. And he's sitting at home miserable because there is no purpose in life for him. He doesn't need to do anything tomorrow. He doesn't need to do anything next week. He could literally live the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years of his life. He's an adult, right? He's in his 30s, 40s. Live the next 40, 50 years of his life, not working a minute, not being successful, not feeling purposeful in any way. And it would be fine. It wouldn't be that big a deal. And while, again, that sounds like a dream to a lot of people, it turns out to be a nightmare for many of the people who end up getting it. And so in that situation, while it feels great, he is fully dependent on this trust fund, right? He's laying over here. His family has given him this wealth that he's never worked on, but he has no leg to stand on. He cannot support himself, or at least that's his belief. It's also not great in situations, for instance, where one partner does that to another, or a family member does that to another, same idea. So in a situation like that, this person is unhappy, dissatisfied with his life, and he ends up taking a lot of his frustration out on his wife, out on his family, out on his kids, because he doesn't have a lot going for himself. He doesn't have a lot of personal self-worth. Relationship, marriage on the brink, this close to ending, I would say. And almost every time that there's engagement, one of the first things I hear are all the ways in which his wife is making his life hell, his wife is making his life impossible. And what I keep trying to point him towards is this concept that, look, if this relationship doesn't work, you definitely have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, right? And own what happens day to day. So why not start now, right? Why not start before the relationship ends and own the feelings? If something isn't working in the relationship, either try to address it, move away from it, own the accountability that you have in a moment. It is really difficult to have internal feelings, to have stress, to have other kind of emotional turbulences, I'll call them, and feel like there's nothing you can do about it, because you feel impotent, you feel lost, you feel hopeless. Right? It doesn't feel like there's anything you can do. And the more time we spend in that space, the more we believe it. And people get trapped in relationships of all sorts, where they have been feeling that way, impotent, hopeless, helpless for decades. But because they've never said anything, because it's been this way, stress, anxiety, pain, depression, etc., for decades sometimes, they forgot that they could say something. They forgot that there is something to do about it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.